Hello, and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Chris, and I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we're advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. For those of you watching on YouTube, live or later, be sure to say hi in the chat thread. Like this video and subscribe to the Unity of Fredericksburg YouTube channel. If you're able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience. It includes music, prayer, and connection. Send an email to info@uofva.org to receive the Zoom link. And for everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person activities every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message today comes from our minister, Reverend Cheryl Fair. And now, here's Reverend Cheryl.
Thank you, Chris, and hello, everyone. Whether you're here with us live here on Sunday morning, this is July the 16th, or if you're watching later, we are happy to have you with us. And I would encourage everyone who is able to participate live to be in touch with us and ask for the Zoom link so you can be with us in the Zoom room, because that's where all the fun happens. You can send an email to info@uofva.org to get that Zoom link. So to start off today, I have a little resource I found from a web page called A Time to Laugh. And it's a piece called I Am Thankful, because we're talking about gratitude today. They start off with a piece of scripture from 1 Thessalonians. Rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances. And this piece goes on to say, I am thankful for the teenager who is not doing dishes, but is watching TV, because that means they are at home and not out on the streets. I'm thankful for the taxes I pay, because it means I am employed. I'm thankful for the mess to clean up after a party, because it means I've been surrounded by friends. I'm thankful for the clothes that fit a little too tightly, because it means I have had enough to eat. I'm thankful for a lawn that needs mowing, windows that need cleaning, or gutters that need fixing, because it means I have a home. I'm thankful for all the complaining I hear about the government, because it means we have freedom of speech. I'm thankful for the parking spot I find at the far end of the parking lot, because it means I'm capable of walking and I have been blessed with transportation. I'm thankful for my electricity bill, because it means I am warm in the winter and cool in the summer. I'm thankful for the neighbor who sings off key, because it means I can hear. I'm thankful for the pile of laundry, because it means I have clothes to wear. And finally, I'm thankful for the weariness and aching muscles at the end of the day, because it means I have been capable of moving and doing things. So, hope you enjoyed that. Again, that's from a website called A Time to Laugh. So you can find that and more resources there. Those are great examples of just kind of being able to flip the script on things in our lives that we might find annoying or, troublesome or things like that, to practice flipping the script and moving those things into something that we can be grateful for. So here at Unity of Fredericksburg in the month of July, we are talking about prosperity. And we're doing it not in the same way that some of us might have experienced some years ago in prosperity programs that were all about manifesting stuff. We're not talking about manifesting stuff. We're talking in the style of Unity truth teachings. We're talking about developing a vibrant prosperity consciousness, because that's what it's all about, is working with our consciousness. So we have a 3-part series this month because I like to do a little series. And I have gotten some positive feedback from folks that they like that too. So the first Sunday in July, on the 2nd, we started by talking about abundance. Abundance consciousness has to do with recognizing the limitless nature of the universe and of that which we call God. And realizing that, just as we talk about God being everywhere present, God is present at the core of us. And so all of that abundance that we sense in the universe is all available to us at the point of us. And we talked about some examples about how limitless we are in our capacity to love, the capacity of life to regenerate in, with the seasons, and our bodies to bounce back from things, and our limitless use of ideas. So we really got in tune with abundance. So today is part 2 of our 3-part series, and our focus today is on gratitude. So after we take that first step of realizing abundance and that goodness is present at all times, even when our human eyes can't see it, now we're going to focus on rolling that awareness into gratitude, being grateful no matter how things appear. So if you think back to all of those examples I gave you at the beginning, even when things appear to be problematic or delaying or uncomfortable, the more that we can practice finding something to be grateful for, the more we can step into this gratitude consciousness. So do you remember a time, and it could even be today for all I know, when your thoughts were all about the things that were blocking your path or blocking your good or bothering you or being a problem? It's something, getting into a gratitude mindset takes practice. It takes practice to be able to look at our circumstances and flip that script. So it's something that we can talk about different ways of doing that. I remember when I first encountered teachings around gratitude was when I first attended a Unity ministry, and that was back in the mid-1990s. And I sort of learned it sort of in a series of logical steps as I learned about the nature of God, the nature of universe. And the first lesson, of course, was that lesson around one presence and one power. That as we recognize one presence and one power that is present everywhere all the time without opposite, and that there is no lack in that space of spiritual truth. That was the first step, learning all of those things. And then I learned how to expand that by using affirmative prayer. So in Unity, we have a process of affirmative prayer where we claim our good and we move into gratitude for things even when we can't see them yet. So we know that good is present, good is on the way to us, and we give thanks for that ahead of time. And I learned that all of this is based on the example of Jesus from Scripture. So many of us come to Unity from having a previous experience in another religion, and you might have some good feelings about that. You might have some troubling feelings about that. But I really appreciated the fact that when I came to Unity, I could sort of continue to tap into that background I had of teachings that came from, I was raised Episcopalian, and move it into a new way of looking at things. So this whole pattern of affirmative prayer that we use in Unity is based on how Jesus prayed. So here's one example. If you remember the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000 and all the loaves and fishes and all of that, when you look at what he did, how it's documented in Scripture, the first thing he does is give thanks. The first thing he does. We also see that with when he raises Lazarus from the dead. The first thing he does is give thanks, is express gratitude for all that is. And then he moves into a powerful process of claiming good. So in front of the tomb where Lazarus was laid, he doesn't do a bunch of bartering or bemoaning and talking about how rough they are. He basically claims Lazarus is alive he just says, rise, Lazarus. So there's that pattern. He gives thanks and then he claims his good. And he claims it before it can even be seen by anyone. So there are numerous examples of this. If you think of Jesus calming the storm, again, there's a process of giving thanks and then very simply claiming peace, be still. So this is the example that we have, and that's how the unity prayer process has evolved, is in this space of gratitude and claiming our good, even when our human eyes can't see it right now. And when we exercise that, when we practice it in our prayer lives, we're sort of strengthening those muscles in our divine nature of recognizing abundance and being in that space of gratitude. So this practice also of being in gratitude helps us on the human level with our human brains. All right. And I always talk about we are 100% divine all the time, and we're 100% human all the time. So not only do we need to be practicing with our prayer and our spiritual practice, but we need to be working with our human brains to manage our own human consciousness. And that helps us to manage and process our outer lives. So how gratitude works with our human brain, one of the fundamental things we talk about in unity is called the law of mind action. And we have talked about that recently. And that basically in short version is thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. So when you have a gratitude practice, when you are intentionally finding ways to be grateful, what you're doing is giving your brain examples of what you want more of. And our human brains are very faithful servants. They do what we tell them to do. Our brain does what we tell it to do. So when we intentionally look for things to be grateful for, our brain says, aha, we want more of that. And then our brain will automatically go out and look for the good stuff, look for things to be grateful for. And it works the opposite way too, right? We know that if we're complaining, bemoaning, and leaning into those kinds of old belief patterns about limitations and things like that, our brain will follow that direction as well. So when we are practicing gratitude, we are telling our brain to go and find more to be grateful for. And when we get into that practice and we're partnering that with a spiritual practice around prayer, meditation, then we can connect with good stuff that is beyond anything that our human brains can imagine. Because being grateful is actually causative. Like it causes us to open up to more and more things to be grateful for, because all the good is out there all the time, right? It's just that we might not be seeing it. We might not be seeing it because we believe there's not enough, or we're not good enough, or I'm too old, or any of those kinds of things. The more we can remove those blinders, the more of the goodness that is out there we can see. So if we want to appreciate that godness, that goodness that is present everywhere in all circumstances, we need to practice being grateful for the good in those small, mundane moments. The quiet moment at the beginning of your day. And if you don't have a quiet moment, then by golly, maybe that's a suggestion. You can create a quiet moment for yourself at the beginning of the day. We can practice being grateful for the good in the frustrating and boring moments, in the moments that we might call tragic or crisis moments. Practice appreciating the good in those blissful moments. And even when you're in a situation where it really is just beyond your capacity to recognize what's good in a situation, it can be an opportunity to be the good. If you can't find the good, maybe it's your turn to be the good, or to create the energy of good out of your own imagination, out of your actions and words, to create good if you honestly can't find any good in what's going on in front of you. So I imagine that many of us have tried a gratitude practice, and there are a lot of examples of ways of doing that. If you think back to those examples that I gave you at the beginning of the talk, just as you go through the day, just a practice of noticing what your thinking is. And when you find yourself in that kind of grumbling thought pattern, notice, catch yourself, and practice reframing your thoughts. Challenge yourself to find something in whatever this situation is to be grateful for. And there's always something there, right? So just as you go through your day, that kind of pause, notice, reframe, or as I say before, flip the script to find something to be grateful for. A lot of people will use journaling and might have a practice at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day to reflect on what they're grateful for. However it is that you do it, it's not about the practice itself. So try not to get hung up on it has to be done this way, at a certain time of the month, and this percentage and all this kind of, don't get too hung up on how you do it. It's all about being in a practice because you're developing a gratitude consciousness. So just having a practice gets you in the habit of being grateful. And a lot of times we're in the habit of grumbling instead of being grateful. Having that practice of being grateful sort of makes it so that it's easier for you to do that on a regular basis with whatever comes up. And eventually you can kind of take off the training wheels of the practice and just be present in being grateful. So for those of us who like to have some data, some facts behind this, I'm going to ask, I have this wonderful book here. It's kind of heavy. Is anyone familiar with Brené Brown? This is a book called Atlas of the Heart. It's one of her recent books. And it's a beautiful book, by the way. It's just all just filled with wonderful pictures and everything. So it's one that you might want to keep around on a coffee table or something like that and keep reflecting back. But one of the wonderful things that Brené Brown does is she brings a degree of scientific research and data to these kinds of things that we talk about as being humans, whether it's emotions or this practice of gratitude. You can, by golly, find a Brené Brown book and she will give you some data behind it. So if you have the kind of brain that wants to have some data, like, oh, that's very nice, I've heard about having a journaling practice, yada, 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 but really, where's the proof? Well, Brené Brown will deliver on proof. So one of the things that she shares in this book, Atlas of the Heart, is that when we practice gratitude, when we're in this habit and this ongoing practice of gratitude, it basically makes our experiences of everything else in our lives better. She also talks in this book about the tendency that we're all aware of, that when we get something new and shiny, it's shiny, wonderful, and we're all in gratitude about we've got this new wonderful circumstance or thing or whatever it is, but it kind of fades after a while, right? And then our brain will want another new shiny thing. Well, what the data shows, and Brené Brown is very good at explaining, is that there is actual data that shows that when you are in this active practice of gratitude, that kind of glow of wonderfulness that you get after you get something new and shiny actually stays around a lot longer. So we're able to be in that space of appreciation a lot longer simply by intentionally being grateful. So there's some data for you, for people who like to have some data. And from a Unity perspective, I'll tell you that our Unity founder, Charles Fillmore, was very much into data. So he would have approved of Brene Brown and her way of supporting all of us as we continue to learn and grow. So let's all be aware of signs that you might need to revisit having a gratitude practice, because you might say, well, I did that before, I know all about that. But sometimes we just kind of get a little, we forget, right? Sometimes we need to come back and refresh. So if you find yourself in thoughts that are all about lack or all about not enough, then that's a sign that it might be time to revisit a gratitude practice. If you find yourself comparing what you've got with what other people have, whether it's like how a certain circumstance went or they've got, if you find yourself in that kind of comparison mode, that's a sign that you might want to revisit a gratitude practice. If you have thoughts going through your head that might be around like vengeance or justice, like they'll get what they deserve, that kind of thing, or I want to get what I deserve, all of those kinds of thoughts are kind of a red flag that it's like, hey, let's take a breath here and go back and reflect on gratitude. Reflect on gratitude on that spiritual level that we talked about earlier in the month, being in an awareness of the abundance of the universe, practicing gratitude in our human lives so we get our brains on board, because we know that the more we're grateful, the more we will find things to be grateful for. And that gratitude, the data shows that gratitude expands and extends our awareness of all good things. And as I close out my talk, I want to point out that the reason we talk about gratitude and we come back to it as a theme in Unity is because it works, my friends. And when I shared about it, when I first learned about gratitude, which was back in the mid 1990s, I was attending a Unity church for the first time and learning all those things that I was talking about. And what I realized a few years later was that I had been in Unity school, because I had been learning the skills to manage one of the most challenging phases of my life. And that was in 1999, when my oldest child, who is now 30 years old, my daughter, was diagnosed with a brain tumor in 1999 when she had just turned 6 years old. And let me tell you, there are not parenting manuals that tell you how to deal with that. But I had been going to Unity, and I had been learning these building blocks of what the nature of goodness is and how goodness is present everywhere, and this practice of claiming good and being grateful for things even when you can't see them. And I picked up those tools, and that's what I worked with through that whole process. And that's how I managed to get through what was, one of the most challenging, and essentially was a decade of my life of parenting a child with a brain tumor through surgeries and radiation and all kinds of really, really scary stuff. Was I just put myself in that practice of gratitude, of being grateful for all of the medical professionals that were needed to help her through her process, being grateful for everything evolving as it needed to for her highest good. Being grateful for all of the friends and family who were present to support us, and even being grateful for myself for the opportunity to be her mom and to walk next to her and hold her hand through that process. So I just want to close out this time to really say from my heart, as my voice gets a little shaky here, to say that gratitude works. folks, gratitude can help you through the hardest times in your life. So let's take all of that and move into a time of meditation together. So I invite you to take a few deep breaths and just settle into your seat. Feel your feet on the floor. Quiet the mind. Open the heart space. Let's move into an energy of appreciation. Appreciation for our bodies. So just kind of do a quick scan through your body and reflect on how many steps those feet have taken in this lifetime. How many breaths these lungs have taken in your life. How many times your heart has faithfully beaten. How many meals your teeth and your tongue and your stomach and your intestines have processed to keep everything going. Just be grateful for all of that. Take a moment and extend that gratitude out to this wonderful planet, to the elements that are present for us all the time. The air that we breathe, the sun that brings us light and warmth, the earth that keeps us grounded and supports us, the water that feeds our bodies, cools our planet. Just thankful for all of these essential elements. So let's take this energy of gratitude and just move into the stillness together for a few minutes right now. And as we begin to bring our awareness back to the here and now, just continue to feel that glow of gratitude. Where do you feel it in your body? What color is it? If you were going to give it a color, what color is it? Maybe that color is a color that you can project onto any circumstances where you find complaining or lack arising. You can bathe it in that color and that energy of gratitude so that we can be in that space of gratitude no matter what circumstances arise in our lives. And circumstances will arise. That's okay. We have the tools to work our way through circumstances with ease and grace. So as we come back into our current moment, we'll close our time of meditation together with an affirmation. I'm going to put my hand right on my heart so that I can make sure this affirmation is rooted in my body, in my heart space, and in the energy beyond my body. So my affirmation for today, and you can repeat it after me, is goodness is my source and I am grateful. Let's do it again. Goodness is my source and I am grateful. One more time. Goodness is my source and I am grateful. So I am. So you are, my friends. And so we are. So thanks so very much for being here. And I am going to turn it back over to our friend Chris. Come on, Chris, I know you're there. Can you turn your camera on? There you are.
So thank you for watching our weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. You can visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation. So you can support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.